Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome again to Destinations Unknown. I am here with Gareth. Hey, Gareth, how's it going?
Hello, we're on a plane.
I know, right? Going to who knows where. Well, we have completed our challenge, or at least I hope you did. Maybe you were procrastinating, maybe you stayed up late last night, but hopefully you have finished and you have succeeded doing what we set out to do, which is write a story based on our prompts. And I don't know about you, but this was an interesting challenge. We had the opening prompt, then we had the twist, then we had the closing line. You followed us along on this windy journey, but you've reached the end. And now, well, you can take a moment to give yourself a hearty congratulations. So, thank you, everybody. Gareth, I know you love getting people involved in writing. So, do you have some pithy words for us at the end of this journey?
Well, mainly just congratulations to everybody who did it. Well done. And, I think we're going to talk about some of the sort of ideas that we've seen come up that people have been posting between either Facebook or the private community. And it's been really fun seeing the variety of approaches that appear. It always is with this particular challenge because you never
Yes,
really know where things are going to go, where people are going to go with it. And even though they have like exactly the same opening, exactly the same final line, the approaches are so eclectic that it's always
hmm
so much fun to see.
it is. Humid Orlando, that's where I am. Awesome. Have to have a cup of coffee sometime. All right. talk writing. Oh, we have another Floridian. Look at that. And Hawaii. Yeah, well, your weather's beautiful. I hate you, Celissa. I'm just kidding. I don't. I love Celissa. She's wonderful. But she's always like, it's so wonderful here in Hawaii. I'm like, yes, because it's Hawaii. So we have had, as Gareth said, people who have gone so many different directions with that. And one thing I would love to see, because we've had people post on our Facebook group and Inside Our Mighty Networks and all of that, some stories, but I would love to see in your comments in the chat here some of the things that you came up with specifically too, if you didn't share it, because I have some kind of in the back corner here. I'm going to share. We're going to do a little deep dive into them too. It'll be fun because as Gareth says, when you give somebody a prompt, when you have creative people, they go a whole bunch of directions. Now, you might be joining us right now and you have no idea what we're talking about. Well, Destination Unknown is about expecting the unexpected. What we did was we began with an opening line that you had to use as written. We're not allowed to change any of the words. Then a few days later, we gave you a twist, which was a what do you call it? Like a methodology, a system? What do you call that kind of thing? A mechanical twist?
Yeah, well, this was a content twist, I think.
Content twist. There we go. And then we had a final line, and you had to include that verbatim as well. And so, throughout all of that, it would mean we were going to exercise your ability to brainstorm, your ability to think on the fly. Great skills to have as an artist. And often, we do fall into ruts. And so, this was an opportunity for you to stretch those skills and get some exercises. Lots of twists, lots of turns. The first line we had was the attack was over in seconds. Quite a riveting first line. Gave a lot, but it was also a bit abstract. After all, what were seconds? What does it mean to be over? What does it mean to have an attack? Lisa says, still trying to figure out the final line. Okay, well, you got time. I mean, this is all for you. This is just an exercise for the fun of it. So no worries. And then we had a twist, which was that the story must not contain any physical violence. Yeah, that was a fun one. We some of you maybe didn't find it very much fun, but hopefully all of you enjoyed the challenge, right? That was the whole point. The point was to get you to think outside the box. And sometimes you have to ask yourself something like this. You have to ask yourself, I'm writing and I'm fulfilling all those audience expectations, but am I kind of being obvious? Am I, do I need to twist things? Do I need to go a completely different direction? Have you ever been working on something, Gareth, and you get to a certain point and then you kind of decide to do a 180 just because you're like, okay, this has been done a million times and it really adjusts everything?
Almost every time. It's one of my standard working practices, especially when working with other people. It's a bit tougher on your own because even myself, kind of writing a first draft of something, I can end up just going on reels, and it's everything is as you might expect. But I'm a bit more eagle eyed when working with others on it, and I do this kind of um, expected things check every single time. Can you kind of tell what's coming up at every pivotal moment? And as I'm reading through anything, I'll always make a note ahead of time what I think is about to happen, and see if it does happen that way. And if it does, I'll flag that. Say you might want to think of a different direction to spin
Hmm.
off on this.
Right, because it's almost like you're the first person experiencing the story too, right? And if you're never surprised, well, then who is going to ever be surprised, right? You need to surprise yourself somewhat. And this was obviously a bit contrived in that we gave you that twist. But think of this. Think of, maybe try this again sometime. Try to say, okay, what did I establish from the beginning? What if that was actually not the case? What if I did this a completely different way? Or do different brainstorming techniques where you force yourself to just include something, like you pick a random adjective or a noun or something, and you just try to make it work just to see what would happen. That kind of improv sort of techniques can really help. All right, and then we had our final line, which was a very kind of melancholy, very Garethy sort of sentence. Far too many people put their faith in me. I'm picturing you chilling out with your beanie, just far too many people put your faith in me. I don't know. I felt very
It's
Garethy.
a contemplative Sunday in the shade.
Exactly right. Sipping whatever you sip under a tree. Lemonade. All right. So that being said, we gave you those prompts. You went to work because you are wonderful writers that you are, and I can share some of the ones that I've discovered. Um, but I wanted to go back because we had a few people comment here about what they talked about. My story was an invasion by bug sized aliens. I really love that idea. I mean, because aliens are so commonly big and monstrous or humanoid. So the idea that they're really small is kind of interesting. I think that's kind of an underutilized premise. It's not like it's never been done, but I think it's an underutilized premise. I think that's cool. Mysterious pregnancies after a strange craft crashes on the edge of town.
Ooh,
Interesting.
Village of the Damned
Yeah,
setup.
right. It's like mysterious pregnant. I could go many different directions, right? That could be kind of like a positive thing, maybe. Like people get like, I was thinking like kind of like the 4400 or something. People get cool powers or something. The enchanted asthma pump turns a man into a superhero. That's fun. The power goes to his head though, and he turns into a villain. That's what always happens, right? Especially with asthma pumps. My brother used to have asthma and he used to use one of those things. So the idea of that making somebody into a superhero is actually kind of fun, kind of cool. Um, a pterodactyl space romance. You may need to share that, Christina. Like, drop that into the community because I have so many questions. I have so many questions. uh, a sugar baby telling her story. Attack of the quails in Arizona. Yes, you and your quails, Danny. I have to say, I never had considered anything threatening about a quail. Even Alfred Hitchcock didn't include quails and the birds. So you're making me think outside the box. So I like that. I ended up with a psychological thriller based on the main character's childhood traumas. Again, Gareth spoke about that, and the attack doesn't have to be, well, it couldn't be violent in this prompt, but what are other types of attack? And of course, trauma. And well, you can speak to that, Gareth, about how there's so many ways to get fear from people besides just physical violence. So that was one reason why you
Yes,
included
yes.
this.
You can be very, very, very dark without needing to actually physically hurt someone.
It's true. Well, everybody knows that. Like, people that have hurt you terribly and they've never laid a finger on you, but they said something or they did something and it just devastated you, right? And in some ways worse than maybe somebody who like sucker punched you or something, right? So I mean, it's true. I've never really been sucker punched severely, but like, but there are, when I think of some of the things that have happened to me, I mean, thankfully, I haven't had too much actual violence committed on me, but even so, I can just think of some of those hurts, and I'm not sure what you could really do that would be quite the same. That would be a certainly it's just a more nuanced and darker thing than just somebody coming after you with like a knife or something. Let's see here. A twist on urban fiction where juvenile detention is abolished and replaced with etiquette school for the boys and finishing school for the girls. Interesting. See where that could go from that beginning for sure. An attacked surprise birthday cake before party and ate it. Uh-oh. I just love it. The birthday cake couldn't stand a chance. Oh, that's great. My original idea was an alien attack, but I got an idea this weekend and switched to a gamer bed monster who is hiding his identity from his online friends. Interesting. Could see that. That makes a lot of sense. I think you were the one who asked if video games constituted physical violence. So I think you slipped that under the radar, S. Gray. That clever man from Mars. Um, my story followed Ben, a normal small town man who developed the power of flight unexpectedly and needed to save the Atlantic coast from a meteor, but sadly crashed into a pair of eagles instead.
Oh
Okay.
no.
I mean, it reminds me of that movie with Tom Hanks about the guy that had to land on the Potomac, right? Was it the Potomac? And because he flew right into the birds, and then he had to do that landing. So yeah, I mean, it's a big deal hitting birds. You don't want to do that. My protagonist is convinced he is a superhero with psychic capabilities and the chaos that ensues. That makes sense. I could see that working, like a psychic attack. Yeah, that would be cool, especially because you say that they're convinced of it. So a person who thinks that they can do a psychic attack but cannot, actually would be really cool. Actually, that I could see that being really fun. I wrote an indigestion, heartburn, plague drama brought on by the stress of a company's computer conversation. That sounds a little close to home. I don't know. That might be the scariest one yet, Garrett.
I was like everybody who's ever worked in IT just having a little bit of acid reflux right now.
Yeah, right. It's like, woo, I remember those days. All right, so I have a couple of stories. I just want to read a little excerpts from these. These are from the people shared them on our Facebook page. I'm not going to give them the names. I'm just going to read a little bit. But I'm assuming since they shared it publicly, they're okay with us, sharing it out. Here's one. The attack was over in seconds. What was it that Kate and Linda saw in front of them? It was unbelievable. No one seemed to have noticed, apart from one of their closest friends, Tilly, that they have known since their first day at school when they were little girls. From that very day, they have been there for each other, wherever and however they could be. So, that's a different sort of take. It looks like if you keep reading, it deals with school. So we had that come up a few times. People thought of schoolyard bullying and things like that. And obviously, schoolyard bullying is a big linchpin for a lot of people. So that's a common one. All right. This one was really good. This might be one of the more creative ones I saw. The attack was over in seconds. Green peelings lay strewn around the kitchen, but no pits were found. Avocados have pits, so these can't be avocados. Then what the heck are they? Scott asked himself. Panic struck. In an hour, the guests would arrive for their Cinco de Mayo party, and guacamole was the star with this crowd. Mary, come here, Scott called out on a higher pitch than normal. What? I'm dressing. Her voice floated down from the upstairs. I don't know what I brought home for the guacamole, but they're not avocados. I just think that's funny.
I did I did laugh when I saw that one. It was quite a little standout, just being so different. It's almost like a
Yeah, and ultimately it turns out they're mangoes, and he thought they were avocados,
yeah,
which
avocados versus mangoes. It's like a slice of life disaster story.
it really was. It was pretty good. And then yeah. And then ultimately, he said, because of his errand buying mangoes, their party may have flopped for want of avocados. He shook his head while considering the many hoops he jumped through to secure the guacamole for their party. It ultimately succeeded when it disappointed his wife or his guests. I did what I had to tonight to serve guacamole, so this stuff better taste good. Far too many people put their faith in me. The idea of that line having the context of getting the wrong thing from the grocery store is pretty awesome. I definitely feel like that sometimes when my wife sends me out because I'm like, she's got a lot of faith in me that I'm gonna like get
Also, when
this
you
right,
get there and realize I wasn't really listening.
right? It's like, can you text me what it is you need? A man refers to his super alter ego taking over as attacks. He wakes up to a missing tooth and even has to incorporate latex briefs in his supercar when he occasionally wets himself. Weird. I could see that though. It's like kind of like the Incredible Hulk, but your personality is like Captain American-y, like it's like the reverse. I could see that being an interesting premise. I like it. It's different. That's the fun of this. Like I love to see the creativity. Now I have a couple that I have actually brought in Autocrit because one thing that I wanted to talk about is using Autocrit for something like this that's a short story. Usually, we would not recommend for like uh, Drabble or flash fiction or whatever some of these are, you're not going to be able to really do the full on comparison, right? Because it's going to be comparing to full on books. So the numbers are going to be a little bit peculiar along the way. But that does not mean that you cannot use it for certain things. So I'm going to bring it up here and I want to show you using some of the works that we had here, if this will work. Okay, so this was one that came up that was a horror sort of theme, right? So I went into the power words and I was like, okay, this person wanted to give you that sense of horror. It was a very frightening, dark story. So how did they do? And you can see in this short period of time, look at all that green, all those little green. And if you look at the view summary, yeah, this is a very, very dark story. Now, usually you wouldn't see quite as big of a pie piece as something like this in a longer work, especially not for fear, because you can't really sustain fear that long, right? It would become rather one note. But for a short story, or this is really closer to like flash fiction, it is quite short, it works just fine. So, but it is something to keep in mind. If you were trying to write a horror story and instead you saw maybe a whole lot of encouragement or even safety or things like that, you might not even, you may want to avoid almost any safety words, which she did, in this short of a work because you don't want to interrupt that flow of that emotion. So that was something I noticed. So good work to the person who created this story. They definitely got that across. All right, so here's another thing I noticed. Um, this one was a story that was kind of a I don't want to say slice of life. I guess kind of a slice of life, but it dealt with this person who is like trying to seduce somebody else, and you'll notice that it does have a lot of lust and it does have a fair amount of encouragement. So those are the two things going on. So again, this person definitely got those sort of things across and fear. Again, not a lot of safety going on in this story. Now, here's another thing that you can notice when doing shorter work. Shorter works, generally speaking, I would say, you want to be careful about your pacing because uh, you don't really have the time to like linger. You got to get people in. Uh, and you can see this one. It's pretty long first paragraph. That maybe was something. This is very, very short, and they might think about adjusting that. This is another one where even though it's quite short, you can see it's quite dense in its paragraphs. And that might just be the style that the writer wanted to do, but I would say an opening paragraph that's quite that dense is a big ask of an audience and probably wouldn't be the best. For one, I could say you could probably make the attack was over in seconds as a paragraph in of itself, right? It's such a poignant line, and that would really help with the pacing there. How do you improve the pacing? I'm going to go Inception because I'm having to look at the chat, which is my screen. Here we go. Inception. Woo! How do you improve the pacing? Yes, the pacing report is looking at that paragraph length, right? So there's multiple ways you can think about pacing. One way is to think of it from a story perspective, which is thrust the audience right into action. Don't give a lot of background information. Don't do a lot of like telling world building sort of stuff that really put somebody in a immediate problem. But in Autocrit, pacing is specifically referring to the length of a paragraph, and it will highlight it here, like you see here, if it is long. You know, and to have the two right at the beginning is quite dense. The one at the end, you could maybe say you're trying to slow the audience down, so that's not as bad. But that one at the beginning, that is quite dense, especially for such a short piece of work. But again, it will vary based on what you're trying to do. We go a little Inception again because let's see. This is fun. All right. Here's another one. Okay, so this one was set in a war scene, and it's this commander and this lieutenant having a conversation. One thing I noticed was it got a lot of indicators in the showing versus telling. So I was kind of seeing what was going on. And one thing I noticed was it does have the word it an awful lot. You'll notice here it's got a lot, considering how short it is. Um, Now, what I will say is this is a conversation. This is almost all dialogue, right? So these are just two people having a conversation. And in a conversation like this, they're probably going to use shorthand and everything. But it is possible that maybe, if you were writing this, if you did another pass, I mean, a lot of these are first drafts. I'm not trying to criticize these works. I'm just showing you how you can use, Autocrit, some ways to kind of clean up your writing a little bit. You might go through and look at some of these its. Do you really want it all the time? Or do you want it like that because that gives that indirectness, that kind of ambiguity, which is perhaps what they were going for, right? But it is something that you would potentially want to look at. Here's another one. This one thing that I noticed when going through the reports is it did have a lot of initial pronouns. It was like 63%, which is pretty high. And you can see here in this first paragraph, she fell into the sea, she did this. Again, I would, one thing that you can do to try to make your writing a little bit more interesting is vary that sentence structure a little bit more, especially those basically three in a row. I think there's one sentence in between them. That's quite repetitive. Now, that could be a good rhythm, but it would be something I might want to look at. So those were just some examples because I know we often get asked about using Autocrit in other forms rather than like comparing it against a full novel, and you certainly can do that. Now, some of those other indicators, like I said, when you put in so little information, it's not going to give you the same amount of data, the same amount of help, but you can still use it for a lot of those things, generic descriptions, initial pronouns, and whatnot. All right, Gareth, did I miss anything in the chat while I was gone?
No, we just got some nice chat. We did have a question of from Audrey was, "What's that program you used just now?" It is in fact Autocrit.
It is
So
Autocrit.
you're on the
Yes,
channel.
that's where we're
Yeah,
from.
check it out.
Yeah,
Autocrit.com.
autocrit.com, and you can sign up for a free account and start to tinker around a little bit and see what you think, for sure.
And I guess that's
Um,
kind of a question as well. If anybody here doing the challenge actually used it to edit the story and everything before finalizing and posting, or since the story was, most of these were short, ended up as little kind of bits of flash fiction or drabbles, I suppose. Whether it was just a case of, oh, it's short, let's get it out there. Let us know if you did edit the piece fully before kind of saying, yeah, that's finished. Although that's not to, discount the people, because I know there are some here who didn't actually finish a story yet or ended up using it to actually springboard. I've heard talk of novels already beginning as well, which is just fabulous. I think that's not a bad result whatsoever from taking part in the challenge. It's like, okay, I didn't end up with a short story, but I'm 20,000 words into something that looks like it may end up being a novella or a novel, yeah, absolutely take that and run with it.
Exactly. For sure. Um, just a second here. I was looking. This one was interesting. Hold on, let me pull it up here. It says the attack was over in seconds. The depleted uranium 50 caliber round should have done the job, yet the chambered round did not fire. Misfire drill cycled the boat another click. Not unusual. A third, however. I suspected someone was playing silly buggers. Sure enough, the background faded, and I found myself stood in a hall full of automatic leaving weaving looms. Keeping my draft centaur frame away from the rapidly moving parts took some fancy hoof work. Just a lot going on there. Like you're like, whoa, okay. But I love about it is that rather than sit down and explain, well, this is a world with this and this and this, it just throw all this stuff at you, and you're like, okay, we're gonna go with it, and we're gonna see what happens.
Was that one
And
from Graham,
I think it might be, yes. I don't
Master
have
of
it named
Master
here.
of Centaurs?
Master of Centaurs. I love the end here, where it said, she started dancing at the wrong moment. Let's just say my center of balance shifted and gravity did the rest. The rear kick hurt as I went over. Worse was to come, said lady placed. Both rear hooves where no gentleman nor stallion wants them. My scream of pain was impressive. I never knew that any equine could reach that octave. That panicked her even more. She shot out of the room as if all the sounds of the seven hells were after her. It was an accident. The vet said I was lucky bruised. Far too many people put their faith in me. I just love how that final line can be taken so many different ways because it can either be like this melancholy thing or it does work as like a punchline. It's awesome. I stopped around 5,000 and could easily keep going into a novel. Well, that's great. Maybe you should do that. Why not? Right? My story is going to be a series, each part of the story focusing on a different would be superhero who fails. Well, I'm really excited that we were able to inspire a series of stories. That's pretty cool. Um, I love that. That's what this is all about. This is about getting you to write and to be involved. Now, speaking of being involved and writing, we have a lot of people who, a little while ago, got involved in our community writing challenge. And I know they're all chomping at the bit, waiting with bated breath for us to announce the winners. And we're not going to do that this week, but we are going to announce them next week. Gareth, can you give us an update on how that is going?
Yeah, I believe the selection from I can't remember the exact number that we had, but 200 plus
Quite
submissions
a few.
for the writing challenge has now been whittled down to a final cage match between 20. And that's what we're working on. So we should be able to announce the actual final list of grand prize winners on Tuesday, as planned. So that's coming up. It's now officially scheduled, and we have to get there by Tuesday.
Tease. Well, just a little bit, you know. We have to have our fun over here. And we certainly plan on doing some more challenges. That is kind of my next step that I wanted to ask you about. How did it go in general? We have the results. How did you find it? Well, how did you react? What are some of the different ways that you responded to the prompts? Did you come up with a lot of different ideas and you had to throw them out? And then also, what did you learn? What were some things that you perhaps didn't know you could do, or maybe you hadn't exercised in a while? I'm really curious to know how this little exercise, this little challenge we did affected everybody because we love to do them because it helps you grow as a writer. You might continue on and make your story into a book. I love that. I love hearing that. That is so fantastic. Um, Gary said he has a 93.78 score, which is very high. But again, when you have a very short work, it might throw off that summary score a little bit, just because there's not going to be a lot to tell you about, right? Still need some editing. I was wondering why flag 3 of the 25 paragraphs is slow. Now I know they were just long, right? It's a certain length, so it does look more like a bit of a brick on the page, and especially in the modern era audiences do like their white space. And so it is something to keep in mind, especially early on. I think it's helpful because it just eases the audience into the story versus hitting them with like a lot of text up front. But certainly something to keep in mind for sure. All right. Let's look at some of these comments. Feel free to interrupt me anytime too, Gareth. Came up with a lot of ideas. You were surprised that you could write a story with the prompts. That's fantastic. It's one of those things, if you've never done it before, right? If you're like, oh, I've always written a story just from my own imagination. Um, yeah, it's fun to have somebody else give you an idea and you're like, oh, I can actually do something with this. Some story ideas were very stubborn. Guess you had some darlings there. That's a thing. That's one thing about Destination Unknown that we trying to deal with, right? Is to get you to be a little more relaxed. Don't get so attached to your ideas early on. Unlike last year's Destination Challenge, I just couldn't get going. I wish I could have. Interesting. Sometimes prompts are like that. They just don't speak to you. And I know, Anne, you're quite a prolific writer. So I'm sure you'll be right on board next time around. It really made me have to think and work with what I had and how to get it to work to meet the goals. I learned a lot about adaptability. I can't speak, and flexibility. Yeah, that's the point. So good. Hooray. Gold star. I stuck with one idea and then panicked with the twist. And then I sat hard down and thought hard on how I could make it work. There you go. See, Gareth, that's the exact, what is it? The
What
hero's
you
journey
should
of
do.
Destination Unknown. You did it. It's like the Campbellian myth of Destination Unknown right there. Uh, I love that I have about 6 different initial paragraphs that I could have taken in various ways. I just chose the one that fit the best with the twist. That's something to consider when you write. There's a lot of people who will write a first chapter and then they'll just throw it out and they'll be like, I don't even want to see it again. I just want to write it all over again. I'm not saying that's the process you have to do, but that is a process that some people do and they think it works really well for them because it's like that's just the clearing the throat phase and they just got to write it out. The other option is you write the same scene in its completion multiple times because a lot of times we'll write a first draft and then we'll just rewrite, but we won't necessarily sit down from start to finish and write an entire scene. Sometimes that can be helpful too. Do you ever do anything like that, Gareth?
Yeah, on occasion. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of a rewrite sort of person than a complete. I just know I've heard of that. I've heard people who've done that. They literally are like, I don't care what it is my first chapter is, I just throw it out because I don't think it's going to be any good. And I think to some degree too, there's a value in learning that you can throw away because you just get so sad because you're like, well, you worked on it, but there's a certain amount of clearing your throat. There's a certain amount of things that need to end up on the cutting room floor and whatnot. Um, it's similar to like when I make my videos for Autocrit. Often I will do a bunch of takes of something and then I'll just go back and I'll film like the whole thing and it'll be way smoother and it'll be a little bit different because I've gotten all that energy out. My idea sparked at the first meaning. The twist helped direct it, and it was easy for your story. Well, you can direct your hate mail to what? No, I'm just kidding. That's good though. I mean, it doesn't have to be a challenge. You got the writing done. That's what matters. I ended up in a very different place. The prompts helped drive that. Well, good. And hopefully you found that journey worthwhile because that's what it's all about. I'm a plotter, so I hated having to change plans once I started, but it was a good exercise. Learning to roll the punches is good for me. Yes, and I will say, as somebody who tends to be a bit of a plotter myself, sometimes I do get too attached to my darlings, right? And I'll even force it. I'm like writing. I'm like, well, it doesn't really work, but it needs to set up something else, and it's going to be so good, and I don't want to give it up. And sometimes you just got to do it. You gotta roll the punches and perhaps even get somebody from the outside who will really roll with the punches. I didn't finish, but I have a bunch of ideas for when I have more time. Well, that's great. See, you don't have to finish. This is just a challenge. You did the writing. So, in my opinion, you're a winner and you have a bunch of ideas for a future project. So, great. The prompts help turn your story turn your brain off, excuse me, so the story flows. That doesn't surprise me in a way because it's kind of like what like Robert Frost said about writing poetry without meters, like playing tennis without a net or something like that. Because limiting your ability of writing can actually be a strength, right? Because you're not having to make all those choices. So for sure. I'm just talking off here, so Gareth, if you have anything to say, let me know. I love to write, and using prompts helps bring me out of my comfort zone. I have 40 stories in the works. Wow, that's a lot going on at once. The nice thing about that, though, is when you have multiple projects, is that you can be at different stages, and that can be helpful. There are some people that can do that. I don't think Gareth, you can, right? You don't write in multiple stages at the same time.
I've started. I've started doing so.
By
Um,
necessity.
Yeah, it just had to happen at some point. I think, especially with short stories,
Mhm.
at the moment, currently working on five
Oh wow.
simultaneously. And I always try to finish something first, but then an idea catches on, and some of them just have to be started when, really, when the idea comes to you with, for example, the first line or the first entire paragraph or the first couple of scenes. I've got to sit down now and write it rather than just kind of making a note. So I break my own rules now and have multiple things going at once.
Yep. One thing to keep in mind though, if you actually have 40 stories in the works, is finish stuff, because it could be that you don't want to finish because then you have to start analyzing and rewriting and stuff like that. And I'm just speculating. So that's my only concern with having so many projects. Is just you don't have to finish all 40, but make sure you get works finished as well, because that's really going to help you grow as a writer, because a lot of writing is rewriting and editing and all of that stuff. It's not just about the fun of the first draft. I'm busy writing a novel. It served as a romance and halfway turned into a thriller. That could be interesting. For an audience, you may want to go back. Like if you decide that's where you want to go with it, great. And it could be to the character they don't realize that they're in a thriller, right? It's kind of like the novel Rebecca, which starts out kind of pretty straightforward and then gets really dark. I would say just make sure you clue into the audience early on that's kind of going to go that direction. Otherwise, they're going to pick it up thinking it's a sweetheart romance and they might be a little surprised. Started 6 stories after the first line, fleshed out 3 after the twist, then tossed them all and wrote a new one that really worked for me. And the last line. Oh, great. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I loved this challenge. It taught me to have confidence in my ability to pivot the story based on hardline limitations. I nearly finished, but I know where the end is going. I mean, I think that can help, right? Gareth basically stuck you with an ending, right? And sometimes for writers, it's like, well, I don't know how to end. We told you how to end. So you knew that. So then you just had to put it together. And sometimes we've talked about this before. When you get stuck, if you have writer's block, something you can do is just do something. And you can even decide you want to do like something that you think is bad, because it's okay. You're going to write it out. And then you often will just kind of clear your mind. Ideas will come to you. You'll realize, from what was bad, maybe what would be good, things like that. It's really one of the best things to do is just barrel through and just get it done. Even if you think the ending is terrible, just get the whole thing done, stop it, walk away from it, come back and clean it up later. Oh, most of them are done. Okay, cool. Well, there you go. So I withdraw my complaint. But for those of you out there who like to start projects and not finish them, uh, you know, my complaint stands. I'm watching you. All right. Do we have anything else, Gareth, before we wrap things up? Because it's slowing down in the comments. I'm loving all of the stories about people writing, because getting enthusiastic about writing is what we're all about. Do we have anything before we want to close things up around here, Gareth?
Well, we do today some prizes to give away, as
Oh, we
promised,
do
for
have prizes. That's
everybody
right.
who has registered for the challenge. So, absolutely everybody who registered, no matter whether you finished the story and whatnot, just as a thank you for taking part, no matter where it took you in terms of destination, we want to give away some prizes, and that
That's
includes
awesome.
some pretty sweet merch and a few other things, all kind of courtesy of Autocrit. So we'll see
Fantastic.
if anyone with us today is in the lucky lot.
All right. So, what are we going to give away first?
Well, our first thing, we'd love to do this as standard. It's a fantastic little Autocrit mug. I don't know if you have any images.
Oh, I'll bring up an image. Just give me one moment here. Whoops. Um, yes, the Autocrit fancy mug found on our Autocrit store, which is shop.autocrit.com. So we're doing the auto one, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So here, let me bring it up. It's so cute. Boop-a-doo-doo-doo-doo. There it is. Yes. Featuring featuring Otto.
Everyone's favorite little
Everyone's
riding
favorite little
mascot.
favorite riding mascot and our logo on the back. Perfect for those late nights or those early mornings writing your story, or for your tears when you're upset about Garrett's prompts.
Quite possibly.
All
So
right, so Gareth, who is our lucky winner of the mug?
this is, this is my fancy random number generator. The winner of the Autocrit mug is Valerie Strawmeyer. Valerie
Valerie
Strawmeyer.
Schaumeyer.
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Congratulations. I don't know if you're here on the stream, but it does not matter. We have your information. We're going to
Yes.
contact you.
Everybody who registered, we have your email address. So if you're not here and we give you a shout out, we will be emailing anyway to say congratulations.
Okay.
And our next one, I'm sure you can search on the store there as well for this, Daniel,
Hmm.
is I just love the name of this, the Muse Juice Wine Tumbler.
The Muse Juice Wine Tumbler. Yep. Hold on. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-doo. I like this thing too. It's fun.
And this is your very own, I think, stainless steel Muse Juice tumbler. You can fill it with whatever it is that keeps you writing,
I
whether
like
that be,
whoever wrote this. If your writing muse is running late, encourage her with a tumbler of wine.
yes, I don't think it necessarily needs to be wine, but
It does not. It can be orange juice. It can be water. It could be the
it's a
tears
funky tumbler
again.
nonetheless.
The tears of your enemy.
And let me generate a number here. The winner for this one is Cassie Ellis. Cassie Ellis.
Cassie Ellis.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's awesome. All right. So, what do we got next?
Now, up next, we're moving from the realm of merch into actual services. The next
Ooh.
one is actually a full short story critique through Autocrit. If you're not aware, part of the services that Autocrit does includes full critiques of works. So that it could include your first critique of your first chapter, or a critique of your entire manuscript, or a critique of your pitch pack if you're actually getting ready to pitch your book to publishers. This one is a short story critique. So if you're a short story writer, this should be right up your alley. And we'll see who wins that. So this gets you.
Apparently, Cassie was on. See, there she is.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll be in touch by email, Cassie, to get your postal details and get that shipped out to you. But yes, the short story critique. This will include a full breakdown critique of your short story from start to finish with comments down the side, full thoughts from your reviewer, plus an extra report that comes alongside that kind of breaks everything down into sections like the plot, the characters, and any editing tips, things that we've noticed that would need to be fixed before you published. So it's pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. I will
Yes.
give away one of those.
Well, that's fantastic because you might be able to use something that you just created for Destination Unknown, or you can use something else. It's up to you.
And our short story critique winner is Suzanne Walters. Suzanne
Suzanne,
Walters. Congratulations, Suzanne.
congratulations. Now, I know some of you might have ordered a short story critique to go with your short story submission for our contest. We are going to hopefully have those back for you as well at the time that we announce the winners as well. So if you are waiting for that critique to come back, we just didn't want to mess up the judging and all of that. We're doing it kind of as one big thing. So Just stay tuned for that. And if you'd like to get involved with our author services, you can also always visit our website, which is www.autocrit.com/author dash services. And I can go ahead and throw that into the chat for you. Yes, and you can learn more about our author services. All right, Gareth, do we have any other prizes?
We do. So we'll move from services to let's go with actual memberships here. So
Ooh,
the next one is an actual Autocrit Pro membership, which gets you access to all the things that Daniel was kind of showing there as he looked at a few of the stories today, plus lots more. Everything is built into
lots.
that, including access to the private community side where we have all our
Yep,
special members only events and guests and whatnot.
yep.
And that's going to be a 1 year of free membership. If this being a draw, if you're already a member and this gets pulled out for you, we'll simply comp you a year of membership. We'll add that on, so you don't have to pay for a whole year. And let's see, we're actually going to give away two of these because I'm feeling quite generous here.
Wow. Just prizes galore around here in Destination Unknown. It was worth the journey, right? We like to
Generating this
reward
one,
people. We like to reward people for writing, you know.
drum roll on this one. The winner of our first 1 year membership is Jen Hatfield. Jen
Jen
Hatfield.
Hatfield, congratulations. So exciting. We
And I'm
don't
just
know
going to
if they're
jump.
here, but it does not matter because if you're not here, we're contacting you. So check your email. If you
Yes,
got if you if
we
you
will
if
be
you haven't
haunting
gotten
you.
an email and you're watching this video, check everywhere. Check your spam. Check everywhere.
And the next one, I've just generated that straight off. The next one is Michael Porter. Michael Porter, 1 year membership in Autocrit Pro. Congrats.
Fantastic. So I expect to see both of you in the community. I especially expect to see you. The next member exclusive event we have is a live pitch it where I'm going to be all in my Shark Tank outfit. Listening to pitches about books. So you can come with an idea of whether or not it's developed. Like you can come and you can pretend that I'm an agent. You could be like, I'm trying to sell you this completed work. Or if you're like, I don't know if this premise is quite a good idea, should I even pursue it? You can do it either end of the process. We're very easy going on Pitch It, but it's a lot of fun. We get to hear a lot of crazy ideas and help artists hone in on them a little bit, either in the how do I sell somebody on this cool book I made, or I'm not sure which way I want the book to go. Either way, lots of fun.
Yeah, I can see a question from Anne there. What if a person was already a lifetime member? What would they get? Yeah, good question. When we get in touch, if we find they were already a lifetime member, we'll sort something out,
You
kind
would
of
try to come up with an
equivalent value, or
equivalent level prize of some sort.
yeah,
Don't
we
worry
always
about
tend to say then, well,
that.
what do you need right now, and then figure it out from there. We just do anything we can to help. But we do have one more prize as well.
We do.
It's not literally just ending with the memberships, because Daniel, you have something special coming up this week that I know those who are on our mailing list may know about, but it is in fact a world building workshop that
That's
you are going to be
right.
hosting.
That is right. Yes. Now, a lot of our stories that we had here, we talked about the slow pacing at the beginning and some of that world building going on. A lot of people ask questions about world building, especially when we're doing those editors. We've noticed that when we're doing the author services. I honestly noticed that a lot with the short story challenge that people often struggled with creating either a believable world or not knowing how to talk about it well. And so we decided to put together this world building workshop, which is going to be a 90-minute session with yours truly. And we're going to talk about the basic building blocks of creating a world. Now, if you're not a fantasy or sci fi author, it's still going to apply to you because this is really thinking about the world that your story takes place. So even if it's very similar to the world as you know it, if you're not trying to make Pandora from Avatar, it does not mean there isn't going to be value because the setting of your story matters a lot, and especially the world building in terms of the state of mind of all the people, the cultures, and The challenge with this, you can tell even by me talking about it, is that it can get a little overwhelming. There's so much to consider. So I have a lot of helpful tools to help you kind of hone in on that, bring it down to earth, as it were, and keep you on track so you don't get into world building disease, where you just end up world building into infinity and you never really get started. So we're going to cover all of that in this world building workshop. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to have a lot of interactive exercises that we're going to get to do on the fly. So kind of like improv, it'll be cool. So if you want just some brainstorming activities, it's great for that. So many things. And at the end of the workshop, it will include me giving you personal feedback based on a worksheet that I'm going to give out, which is to help you draft a world. So you can draft the whole world, and then you can present it to me, and then I will give you feedback and ideas. It's going to be a bit of a conversation of, did you consider this? Did you consider that? Things like that. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. New journey for us here at Autocrit. You are inflicted with world building disease. Uh oh. Well, you may just have to
Now
show
this
up.
this workshop, I'll post the link there into the chat if anybody wants to check out the actual page with all the details on it. That is going to be running in 2 different dates this week, which I believe is Thursday and Sunday, if that's correct, Daniel.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and with the ticket, if you were to buy one, you can get access to both sessions if you like. You can drop into the first, drop into the second, whatever you like to do. Drop into both if you want to do it over
Yep.
again. Up to
Yep.
you entirely. So just the one ticket will get you into both. But we're going to actually give away a ticket right now for one of our challenge registrants,
Ooh, I'm excited.
and that person is going to be
Ba-da-dum-ba-ba-ba.
Nikki Huey. Nikki Huey.
Nikki Huey.
Congratulations, Nikki.
Fantastic. Hope to see you there Thursday or Sunday. And like I said, it also does include some feedback as well. So this is a way for you to get in there, have a, a organized way of getting your thoughts together for your world, putting it all together. And then when that's all done, you can send it to me and I can give you feedback on it. So it'll be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people come up with. I know we've got a lot of imaginative writers and I love reading this kind of stuff. So I'm just looking forward to reading about all the worlds, to be honest.
Oh, it looks like we have Nikki with us.
Oh,
Congratulations, Nikki.
yay! Congratulations.
We'll pop you basically pop you into the system as if it was a purchase, and you should get an email very soon today that kind of gives
Yep.
you all the access details for getting into the workshop.
Right. And somebody asked how often we do them. This is our first time we're doing this. It's a new experience here at Autocrit, but we will be hosting it again, I'm sure. And we're also looking to continue to do workshops such as this on loads of different topics because we know we've heard loud and clear from you that you love our educational efforts and you would love some interactive events where we give you personalized feedback. So we will continue to do more of them. So if you ever have an idea, you can always feel free to email us, throw it in a comment while we're doing our live stream, because we really do listen to all of you because we want to be here for you. We want to be a resource for writers, to be a true online community of writers. So whatever you'd like, let us know and we'll consider it for sure. All right. So do we have anything else, Gareth?
No, I think I'm on the calm down now from all the excitement.
I know, right? I'm like, well, it's just a few days. For those of you who are taking the workshop, I will see you in just a few days. For the rest of you, I will see you on Tuesday for our big announcement. I don't know. I don't have a tuxedo. I wish I did because I'd like totally like do the whole like Oscars tuxedo ceremony thing. I don't know. Maybe I can like Photoshop myself on a tuxedo. We'll see what happens. Show up next week and you can find out what it is I look like.
Yeah.
I'll spray paint myself gold. But we'll announce the winners of the who are going to get into the short story anthology contest, which I'm also very excited about because I have a sense of some of the people, but I don't have the full list yet. So it'll be exciting. All right. That being said, I hope to see you around the Autocrit community. If you are joining us here on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, and let us know what you would like to see in the future. Yes, subscribe to the channel, please, and likes are very helpful. It helps YouTube notice us, and we like to be noticed because then other people get to notice us, which is great.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for joining me, Gareth, today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, everybody else, for joining us as well, and of course for taking on the challenge. I hope it was fun, and I can see so many people already making progress on so many different things. So that makes it worthwhile for us.
It really does.
Congratulations to everyone and our prize winners, and yeah, we hope to see you Tuesday and the week after, and the month after, and forever after. Thanks as always.
All right. Bye, everybody.